What is going on, guys? Jack here, and welcome to a Football Manager 2013 video where I'm going to be showing you my tactic that I used during the FM Cup. So for those of you who don't know, the FM Cup was a tournament that took place over the last few months. Originally they were going to be uploaded to YouTube, kind of every match in it. I'm not sure if that's still happening, and since it's been a while since the Cup actually finished and I've not heard anything more, I'm going to be showing you guys basically my team and how I won the competition. So the competition was held between 32 different people, 16 of whom were YouTubers and 16 people were kind of subscribers who were invited to play. And they were playing for a prize pot of £70. So the format was 32 teams, 8 groups of 4, and then from there a knockout stage to the final. Along the way I knocked out teams like Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, Chelsea in the final, Manchester United and Tottenham, so I definitely didn't have an easy run through this. The teams were randomly assigned to the players and I got Manchester City. So today I'm going to be showing you guys a bit about my tactic that I used to win the competition. Hopefully teach you a few kind of bits or pieces, I suppose, as it was a tactic that raised a few eyebrows when I showed it showed kind of the guys I was playing against. So on screen you can see the squad here, and what I want you to do is either load up FM without any updates and go and pause the video now and go and make a tactic. See what you think the optimal tactic would be with this team. General question, if you don't do it, fair enough, just have a look on here. What would you do? What would you do? That is the question I'm asking, I suppose, if you got given this team. So anyway, let me show you what I did. And this is where this is going to get a little bit crazy, because this is the tactic I used. It's a tactic completely of my own creation. It's kind of, it's kind of a hybrid, I want to say, of a kind of a tick-attacker and my FC United and Manchester formation. It's a formation that it kind of has a few ways you can look at it. Primarily, you can look at it as a fairly kind of odd shape, which indeed it is. I mean, theoretically here, according to FM, you are playing with 8 midfielders, but the general tactic relies on a simple concept. And that is that you have a core unit in the centre, you're going to work the ball through the centre, often your advanced playmaker is the core of everything, all the passing goes through him, your inside forwards have to be pacey players who run off him, and your wing backs are the players who kind of provide the entire width for the whole side. So with this tactic, as I've mentioned, I got a lot of success. I'm going to show you guys how I lined up with it. It isn't too dissimilar to how I suppose you get made to set up with it if you ask the assistant. There's a few minor changes, but this is the kind of general shape that I ran with for the competition. So I'm basically going to run you guys through exactly what everything does. In goal we have Joe Hart, fairly standard kind of player, I suppose. It's a goalkeeper, not playing a libero or anything too crazy here. At centre-back we went with JOLEON, LESCOTT and Vincent Kompany. They're playing a 2 at the back, but with JAVI GARCÍA playing just ahead. And I mean, JAVI GARCÍA is easily one of the best anchormen in Football Manager, and it felt like, I kind of felt like I almost had to use him with him being in my side. I mean, you can see his stats here. He's almost a perfect anchorman. So we fully utilised him here, and then playing ahead of JOLEON, LESCOTT and Vincent Kompany, who themselves are fairly solid kind of players. Both of them kind of were very solid for me throughout the competition. Vincent Kompany was really good because he would also push forward and he could also act as a creative force. And I believe there was also 1 or 2 games when I actually played Vincent Kompany as the anchor man, because he has really well rounded off stats for a centre-back. But him and JOLEON LESCOTT did a solid job in the centre. At left back and right back we went with wing backs with Maicon and Zabaleta. The reason for this is pretty simple. Both these players are very, very good at playing the wing back position, and while Zabaleta can't actually naturally play the left wing back position, he plays it with some competence and is a better kind of alternative, in my opinion, than Kolarov. So that's the reason for that. I mean, you can see their stats here. Both players are very competent going forward. Zabaleta offers a little bit more defensively, but in truth, both these players pretty much act as wingers for the side. I mean, you can see Maicon here. He's pretty overrated in Football Manager. And he did a great job for me playing this wing back position. And with these two players, they are literally providing the entire width of the side. In central midfield, we go with Gareth Barry and Yaya Toure. Gareth Barry, ball-winning midfielder set to defend. He is going to break down any play, hopefully fairly high up the pitch. Unlike JAVI GARCÍA, who almost drops back at times to act as a second, or rather third centre-back, Gareth Barry's job is really to get the ball in the centre, just not allow their central players too much pressure, because ahead of him, I guess the attacking trio of Aguero, David Silva and Tevez, they're going to be pushing fairly high up the field at times, and so it's down to him to really win the ball and do his job there. A deep line playmaker, we go with Yaya Toure. This guy is a fantastic player in Football Manager. Yaya Toure, well rounded off. The reason I play him at deep line playmaker is because I want him to sit slightly deeper than perhaps your regular central midfielder. And he does a good job there. If I just show you, his stats are fairly well suited for a defensive position, and his solid physicals allow him to get up and down the pitch, which is something he really has to do and work hard in this formation. So now we move on to the players in the final third, and this is where this tactic kind of gets a little bit different, because we're not playing with any out-and-out striker, and in fact, rather than perhaps playing with one false nine, in some ways we're playing with two, although they're very they're not false nines. I don't know how to describe what Aguero and Tevez are doing here. Both players have unique instructions set to them. They swap position, they never close down. The general idea with these two guys, pretty much, they are almost playing as strikers, but what they do is, when we don't have possession, they sit deep. And what they allow is, when we don't have the ball, David Silva's actually slightly ahead of them. And so what happens in this, we use David Silva as a real kind of target man. Ball gets pinged into his feet, and he is the sole creative outlet of the team. And Aguero and Tevez are obviously making runs ahead. Yaya Toure and Gareth Barry always offer options just behind. And with Maicon and Zabaleta almost pushing up into this kind of shape when we're in attack, it means that David Silva always has 5 or 6 options to pass to. And what this basically means is it's near impossible for a team to completely limit our options. And David Silva himself is an absolutely insane player. His 17 composure makes him absolutely amazing in these tight areas to just simply hold up the ball, kind of play it slow and wait for an opportunity. Looking at his stats here, you can see playing to his strengths. Class act. I really can't stress how good this guy was for me in this competition. He's just that cool head of midfield. He's good with his off-the-ball runs as well, which helps him find some space in this area. And then, as I mentioned, Aguero and Tevez, these two guys actually swap positions as well, if I just show you. And what these guys do is, that you'll see here, wide players into moving channels. So David Silva takes up a position behind the two centre-backs on the attack. Aguero and Tevez are looking for those gaps between the left-backs and kind of left centre-back or right centre-back and right-back respectively. You'll also see here that they have tight marking set to no, and they have closing down set to absolutely nothing. The reason for this being is that I want these guys really to have a free roam role. When they have the ball, these guys do not want to be moving out position. I want them kind of sat in this attacking midfield position just between the defence and the midfield. And what this allows is, even with teams that play a centre defensive midfielder, these two guys, and these 3 guys indeed, find so much space between that defence and kind of midfield, because even with an anchorman, you simply cannot mark these guys out the game. The other thing that was very nice about this formation was the fact that the teams I came up against for the most part used a 4-2-3-1 with a lone attacker, then 3 attacking midfielders spread wide, and then 2 central midfielders. What this tactic did was it completely counteracted that. You have your one lone forward, Vincent Kompany and Lescott for the most part can deal with him. Their wide attacking midfield players could be fairly well defended by Maicon and Zabaleta. JAVI GARCÍA was able to pick up the centre attack in mid, and this meant that I was able to have kind of these 5 men really in the centre of midfield, forcing the play out wide. When I had this kind of core triangle of players, 6 players in the central of midfield, it meant that teams were forced to pass out wide in order to find the opportunities. And from there, it's fairly simple for us to move into that space, get the tackles away, and then hit them on the break. Because as they move wide, it leaves huge spaces in the channels for Aguero and Tevez to hit them on the counter. So now I've talked a little bit about the concept of the tactic, why I've chosen the players to play well. Let's have a look at the team tactics. So as you can see here, we're set to fluid. The reason behind this is that with the fluid philosophy, players are expected to kind of, I guess, move around and kind of help with all aspects of play, which is a really key element of this tactic. There'll be times when Aguero, despite being set to close down, never will, drop back and help players break down the play. And although our kind of team is fairly well defined, as kind of you've got your attacking unit here, a defensive trio in midfield, and then these 4 players kind of in an arc, playing a kind of free roam role. With the fluid philosophy, we play a really flowing style of football, and this means that when in defence, these 4 players, being Zabaleta, Toure, Barry and Maicon, When we don't have the ball, they drop deep, and on attack, these guys all bomb forward and offer options. And because we have JAVI, GARCÍA, LESCOTT and company that kind of stay back as a core defensive unit, they're always there to wing the ball should we get hit on the counter. So we get the best of both here. And considering our kind of players are very, very good work rates, especially Zabaleta and Maicon, these players can, run up and down the field for days. And even then, YAYA, TOURE and Gareth Barry, again, two players with very, very good work rates, which also helps with this tactic because we are going to be bombing up and down the field. I mean, between these players, I think they have an average of 17 work rate, which tells you a lot. For the strategy, we go with control. The reason that we play this is because for the most part we are going to be stronger than other teams, and it does give us some coverage to perhaps being hit on the break. With us playing control, it's kind of a slower build-up play. And what this enables is us to get our players in positions. As I mentioned, in playing this slow kind of tactic and getting the ball to SILVA and our wing-backs pushing forward, it means that it gives plenty of our times to kind of move around. And because we have so many options in midfield, it's very easy to play a slower, simpler pass because we simply outnumber teams in midfield and outmuscle them. As for creative freedom, we've got this set to more expressive. This basically just means that we will take slightly more tactical risks when going forward. This is pretty kind of, I guess, safe. Some tactics this simply doesn't work, playing more expressive, but with this, as I've mentioned, I need players to gamble in opportunities, particularly the wing-backs, to get forward and offer that width. And for the most part, because as I've mentioned, there's always a pass on, we don't lose the ball in key areas, and so we're not too susceptible to the counter-attack, which I've seen a lot of people try against me, but it simply didn't work with this tactic. As for roaming, the only other real kind of playing style change, it was set to more roaming. This just means players are allowed to move out position. This combined with the fluid tactics means that, as I've mentioned, these players, particularly Aguero and Tevez, who switch positions, when they're sat between the midfield and defensive lines, they're just going to hover, they're going to float, they're going to find that opportunity. And with more roaming, it really allows them to kind of find that space. And by giving them this creative freedom and not forcing them to man mark and close down the play, they're really allowed to be fully utilised and get involved in play as they see fit, which is another great thing. And again, these two players, Aguero and Tevez, they complement each other very, very well. They're very similar players in many regards, and alongside each other they play very nice football. And whilst neither of them is the best defensively, both offer fantastic options going forward. And I mean, both these players are very adaptable and very, I guess, fitted. They fit the mould, I suppose, to play a midfield attacking area. Perhaps Aguero more than Tevez, but I think both of them, especially with them being either-footed and both being able to play centre attack in mid, I couldn't help but try this out, and this tactic just kind of worked from the off. I've got to be honest, sometimes you'll sit tinkering with a tactic for a while. This one kind of just worked. Anyway, just the last thing to talk about is the specific instructions. I have width set to wide. The reason for this being is that, as I've mentioned, the wing-backs are a very, very important part of this tactic. They kind of stretch teams wide and create openings in the channels for Aguero and Tevez to move into. As for the tempo, we have a very slow tempo, and as I've mentioned, the reason for this being is simply to avoid being hit on the counter-attack, patiently wait for these opportunities, and basically allow Aguero and Tevez, when we do get the ball in the final third, to work their magic and get into more attacking positions, as they are inside forwards. And basically, by playing slowly, it allows our players to get in position. If we were to play quickly, if you can imagine here, LESCOTT wins the ball at the back. Our main defensive unit has all dropped back. LESCOTT then hoofs the ball up to David Silva. Aguero and Tevez actually play slightly behind him in open play, and so this means that when Silva gets the ball, he has literally no options ahead of him to pass to, and so simply playing quickly wouldn't work. The other one is focus passing is through the middle. Again, the reason for this being is that we're playing through the middle. We outnumber teams in the core of the team. Our spine of our team is so strong, and so that is where our main outlets come from. And whilst our wing-backs are there as wide options, we always look for the central pass first, and the wing-backs are simply there to rip teams open at the back. So anyway, that is the general stuff of the tactic. I'm just thinking if there's any kind of team instructions that I've changed here that I've not thought about, because I made this tactic a long time ago. It proved very successful for me. There will be a download link down in the description as well if you guys want to change it about. Okay, yeah, there are a few changes. I forgot about these. JAVI GARCÍA at centre, well, anchorman. I actually have him set more defensive than an anchorman, and I have his creative freedom set to little. The reason for this being is simple. He is not a creative outlet in this team. His option and his role really is just to act as kind of a safeguard for our centre defence on the counter, but also add that little bit of kind of coverage should they get through our kind of core central players during an attack. JAVI GARCÍA is the last line of defence before our back two kind of get exposed. Then closing down, this is set to own half, slightly less frequent than it is by default. The reason again for this being is, if you can imagine, we have a lot of players committed to the attack. JAVI GARCÍA and LESCOTT and company are the last men back. If JAVI GARCÍA goes to close down a man, more often than not, he's often leaving a man free behind him, and so by having him just stand off that little bit more, he basically forces the team to either pick a pass or run at him, and in running at him, the ball, obviously if you run with a ball, you're not moving it as quickly as if you just pass it ahead. So in forcing the player to either run or maybe take a slightly more conservative pass, what this means is it gives time for our players to get back. A wing back, just default stuff. The only difference is that I have wing play set to a hug touchline. The reason for this being is, as I've mentioned, the wing backs are the sole width for the team, and whilst they aren't the main force, one of their main kind of, I guess, roles is simply to get up the field with their high work rates and their athleticism. If need be, they can ping in that pass, but for the most part, they're just acting as an extra man for teams to worry about. Anyway, moving on to the midfield area, this is where it gets a little bit different, because YAYA Toure's role is pretty much completely changed with the sliders and stuff for this tactic. So you'll see here, although he's set to a deep line playmaker, his role is pretty different. He's set slightly more attacking than a default deep line playmaker, and his creative freedom is toned down slightly. In truth, this tactic really isn't a deep line playmaker anymore with some of the changes I've made. Instead, it's kind of changed a lot, and it's kind of my own role, and this is something I really like about FM14, is the fact that you can be able to share your own player roles and stuff with other players. So I probably will do some videos, maybe even covering specific player roles that I've come up with. But anyway, we have YAYA Toure here. His passing style is set slightly below kind of the standard length. It's set to kind of semi-mixed. Run from deep is set for often. As I've mentioned, he starts in a fairly deep position as a deep line playmaker anyway, despite his kind of slight mentality change. And so when we're on the attack, he has to be able to get the ball forward. He's run with balls set to rarely. This is mostly because the main players running with the ball are going to be Tevez, Aguero and the wing-backs. And for the most part, Silva, Toure and Barry simply form this little triangle, which means that when the other players who are running around them perhaps aren't open and in space, there's always this kind of safety pass to play to. So that's the reason for that. And for through balls, it's set to sometimes. The reason for this being is I don't really want too many through balls being played with this shape, except from by David Silva when he slips in the attackers. And the reason for that being doing this is simple, and that is that when YAYA Toure has the possession for the most part, there's not going to be too many through balls on, and those that are on are probably going to be cut out because he's going to be passing it quite far and a long distance up the field, and so you know, the passes aren't going to be too successful. And for the most part, I'd much rather he plays a simple pass to players' feet. The ball in midfielder is Gareth Barry. The main difference here is his run from deep is set to sometimes, again, fits kind of with what I was explaining earlier. His closing down is set to whole pitch. Because JAVI GARCÍA stands off, I want Barry to be the player who really kind of closes down players in the centre and really causes hassle. Whilst a lot of these players are kind of offering fairly attacking options, Gareth Barry remains fairly true to his ball-winning midfielder role, and his job is really just to close down midfielders and not offer the space and time that perhaps JAVI GARCÍA gives up by sitting fairly deeper. One more thing, long shots are set to net rarely because I don't want him taking long shots, and for whatever reason FM likes to make players take long shots all the time. Anyway, now we move on to David Silva. Main difference with this guy is his run with ball is set to sometimes. He doesn't want to run with the ball. His option, he's almost a Riquelme kind of a García in many regards. He's the player who sits at the tip of the play. He's the main attacking outlet for the team. He holds up the ball, as you can see here, closes down the whole pitch, and he roams from position. He's kind of looking for that little bit of space. Perhaps he's not necessarily an García because he roams from position, but he sits in the pocket of space, and with teams that don't play kind of anchormen, it's near suicide. You're going to concede goals because of the space you offer him, and it was something that a lot of teams experienced firsthand when I played against them. Last but not least, we have the inside forwards. I've already talked about these guys a little bit. They're basically the strikers of the team, but they start from a deeper position. The reason for this being is that because we play a slow play they will have their chance to get forward, but they're also able to drop deep and offer more options in midfield. And whilst this tactic doesn't necessarily boss possession, because we give teams a lot of time, what it really does well is, I guess, utilises teams, draws them into a false sense of security before we really quickly can work the ball up to David Silva, and suddenly, you know, there's 5 or 6 passes on in the final third, and we're able to commit men to the attack. But yeah, that is this tactic in brief, and I say in brief because I could talk about it for hours, but I simply haven't got time. Guys, I will leave a download link for this down in the description. The main key roles that you need to look for, and I don't really advocate plug-in and play tactics, but this tactic really relies on you having a really good advanced playmaker with composure, 2 inside forwards, an anchor man, and wing-backs with high work rates. They're the players you want to look for if you are going to attempt to kind of use this tactic. But anyway, if you have any questions with regards to this tactic, you know, be sure to leave them down in the comments. I will get back to each and every one of you. As I mentioned, I did use this tactic with some success, particularly online during the FM Cup, which I won, which was pretty crazy. It's a shame that kind of the videos haven't been uploaded to the YouTube channel. Maybe they'll get uploaded in the future. If not, I do have a few of the games which I might kind of upload just with a little bit of a commentary, maybe talking about this tactic even more. If that's something you'd like to see, maybe let me know down in the comments. But other than that, guys, hopefully you enjoyed today's video. If you want to check out this tactic, you know, go download it, go give it a go, let me know how you get on. And other than that, it is me, Jack, and I'll talk to you guys in a bit. I'm out.